Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're on episode 4 of our weekly Denver housing market coronavirus update, where we check into the facts and things that are changing, and try to bring them to you in a way that kind of pulls it all together. Lots of stuff spinning, lots of stuff changing. We had some really big changes last week, from how showings are handled, extension on 1031 exchanges that we'll be talking about. And just like that, masks and home disinfectants are things. So we'll be talking about that too. So I hope you stick with it. We'll have a couple little tidbits. One thing of note was, for those who are like, well, wonder what's going to be happening to housing and stuff. They said like 60% of the people are, and I got our panel in there too, are postponing their home buying for a while, and they're expecting a pent-up demand once all of the storm passes, so to speak. So we'll be talking about that. If you're watching live or you're doing a watch party, please be sure to get your comments in there, and we'll monitor those as we go. Where the feed's going like 6 different places right now, and so we're trying to keep an eye on which one you would be commenting on. If you can get a comment in there, we will try to respond to you live and stuff. And so with that, and actually if you respond through the Lincoln Real Estate Livecasts feed, if you're on that Facebook page, we'll get that right into the system. So there's that. So with that, let's bring in our all-star panel. If you have first time tuning in, we have our stellar leader, broker owner, Jen Erzinger, who owns Lincoln Real Estate Group, the reason we're all here. And on her right is Ann Schabacher, another all-star agent from Lincoln. And then on I guess this is on my that way is Pam Wandry from Columbine Mortgage, all-star lenders, taking care of me many times, knows her stuff. And then of course then there's me in the corner now. And for our viewers, if you see me doing this and doing this and doing this, I'm at the control center. So or if I happen to answer a question that was like 3 ago and I just get back in, that's why. So anyway, so how's everybody doing?
Good.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
What day is it? That's what day it is, right?
I think so. I think it is Tuesday. And for our viewers, Ann is operating from a hotspot as her power went down. And so if suddenly she just freezes up and doesn't talk, it's not that she's thinking, it's probably that the power went down or something, and we'll figure it out. So
my wonderful connection.
Yeah. So yeah, we had some big things happen last week, guys. I mean, we had the adjustment on how showings can or cannot be handled. I think there was a extension on 1031 limitations, right, for investor clients. Yep. All sorts of stuff. So I'm just going to open this to the panel, and of course lending things have been doing their thing.
They're constantly changing. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get into that exciting mess later.
Yeah. So who wants to tell our audience about what happened with showings?
I think Jen should handle this one.
Yeah.
Oh man. So last week was yet another, I think that's the craziest roller coaster we've been on yet. It's been 2 weeks ago now that a letter from the AG went out to a specific realtor. A complaint had been filed. Come to find out, it was a tenant occupied property that the landlord was trying to sell. The tenant complained that they were getting kicked out of the house too much, felt unsafe, and then this escalated or spiraled, whichever way you want to say, into basically we're no longer allowed as of last Thursday to show property in person. So regardless of if it's vacant or not, we are no longer allowed in-person showings. So that's decreased our abilities quite drastically. Now, once we're under contract, we are allowed to proceed with our transaction as normal, whatever that means. in this day and age. So we're able to inspect, do final walkthroughs. So we're logistically trying to think of ways, buying a property without really seeing all of it as an interesting concept. So we're trying to come up with some unique ways to circumvent that.
Well, and we've got the numbers from the weekend update from Jen. I mean, even despite that they shut down the showings, I mean,
said a lot go under. I mean, it's crazy the amount of units we had go under. So we have a total active of 5254. Again, these are Denver Metro numbers. New listings, we had 522 still come up. I run the numbers Thursday through Monday, just so you kind of know what perspective we're coming from. We had 460 go under contract, 467 closed on Friday and Monday, or even Thursday. And then we had 223 withdraw, which is a pretty low number to me, all things considered. It's a little higher than previous weeks, but not by much.
Yeah. No, I was like, okay, didn't anybody know that the governor shut down all the showings,
I know.
But I think it goes to speak to how people are kind of working around things. There's a lot more talk on the virtual showings and virtual contracts, and I mean, not virtual contracts, getting under contract after a virtual showing and kind of the process on that.
Yeah. I had read an article where showings are down 88%, which to me is an odd number. I don't know what the 12% or what is. I don't know if that's technical virtual showing that's being scheduled through the system, or actual showings should be down.
Physical
100%.
showings, right? Yeah, physical showings, right?
I don't know what that 12% is, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just reporting what we're told. So.
Yeah. And what you got any takes on all of this stuff? We had talked the other day, and you're having having that thing that happens to me when somebody asks you a question and
Well, no, I'm not really sure if I have a delay due to this little hotspot thing.
Oh, right.
Due to no internet, so that's a little bit fun, but it kind of goes back to the fact that people don't really want to buy a house they haven't seen. Mm-hmm. But clearly something is happening where the houses are going pending. They're going under contract.
Yeah.
How many were there? 490? That's a lot of houses being purchased, which potentially haven't been seen. So clearly we're doing something right.
Well,
and the virtual showings, while it's not ideal, it is probably your second best option at the moment. Right.
Well, and I tell you, for those who are watching, we've been tracking like that 7-day running average of what's been happening. Why don't we go to that? And you can see, let's see if we can get it on here. Down here is where the governor said no more showings. And if you look here, the properties going under contract just still kept cruising along. Now they're still down from here, but they're not down actually it's still less than what we would typically see going from August to September. Now I know this is like a broken record, but that's kind of what's going on. And I
think fallen contracts or back on the markets are going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting number to track, because as we all know, being inside of a property, getting the feel, the smell of the property is a deal breaker a lot of times. So that's going to be interesting to see how that number tracks in the next couple of weeks until our state order is lifted.
And it tended to, it was starting to trend. I don't have a trend line on this. It sort of took a little bit of a dip, but I would expect that we'd see a little bit more of that, just because of the same thing that you mentioned, is that, okay, we get in, we got everything, it's a perfect house, and then we get there and
it's not.
Yeah, the whole place smells like garlic.
Not quite what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But no, these are I guess, even though that's a downward line, the takeaway is that it will be we'll probably we're having a little bit of a downturn, but I'm like, okay, well, yes, try, August to September.
Well, I think it's important to note also that once you have a contract in place, then we can go see the property. So I don't know what people are writing up, but if I were writing a contract, I would say that we would see the property within 24 to no longer than 48 hours, because then at that point we have an actual contract in place and we're allowed to do what we need to do to fulfill the terms of that contract. So it's going to be an interesting week to see how those 460 units do that went penned this weekend.
Right. Now, Pam, what's the activity on your end? Are you seeing any of these 692 coming in, going under contract under the showing?
Mortgages are still happening. I looked up yesterday. I went to the Mortgage Bankers Association website to kind of see what their applications level had been the past week. And as we discussed last week, same thing this week, purchase contract or applications are down a little bit from last week and down obviously from where they were last year. But they're still happening, obviously. There's still contracts going under. People are still locking loans. Refinances are down a little bit from last week, but we're still 144% up from where we were this same week last year. So refinances are going gangbusters. Lenders are still, locking loans. Some of them have tightened up their belts on their guidelines, their overlays, making some loans a little bit more challenging to qualify for borrowers. Self-employed, some lenders are, giving them a 25% income cut to qualify with. And, so lenders are being cautious on what they're, doing, trying to make sure that these borrowers are going to be able to meet their obligations. And that kind of brings us to, with all this frenzy, and the rates going crazy, volatility, the Fed came in, tried to help out, or is helping out. They've done a great job of backstopping some of the rates just skyrocketing due to, the demand and lenders not being able to hedge properly and meet their servicing, requirements, things like that. But now the big question is servicing in the industry, and how is that going to be handled? And do they have enough liquidity to be able to, with all these forbearance requests that are coming in? I believe they said we're about maybe 3 to 3.5% requests that have been made recently on loans for forbearance, and because of the government coming in and giving this, no proof of hardship to be able to ask for a forbearance. Lenders are reaching out to us as brokers and saying, hey, you have some culpability here as well. You need to make sure that these borrowers know, or, are going to have a job, are going to make sure that they have income, are going to be able to meet their obligations, because they may be able to close this loan because they have a job right now, but if they lose it in 15 days and they're trying to sell these loans to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and they won't buy them because they find out that the person actually did lose their job or cut hours and no longer qualify, then that lender's stuck with that loan, making it less, they have less money to be able to make another loan for another person. And so, we're playing it day by day right now, and we're trying to make sure we get the message out to the borrowers that, if you have any thoughts of going into forbearance or thinking that you're going to be able to get away with 12 months of no payments or whatever because of this, if you have a stable job, if you have, ability to pay, keep paying your mortgage. And if you're thinking that you're going to go and immediately turn around and ask for forbearance, you should not be taking out a loan right now. Not just for yourself, because we don't know the full implications of how this will impact credit, but I probably can guarantee that lenders will say forbearance on your loan, on your credit report, and they're not going to want to lend to you either for your next refinance or for your next purchase, because they're going to see that you had this forbearance. And then, then it compounds the economy, the effect on the whole lending institution. It could bring the whole thing down. You may think I'm just one loan, but it multiplies and causes big issues.
Some of these people that might have multiple properties like in a resort area, or they can't do the Airbnb, and that can't, I mean, it's ski season. They got 3 properties that they can't rent out at peak ski season. They may I mean, if they may have no choice,
Those are legitimate, and that's
those are legitimate, right?
For. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're closing on a loan one day and asking for forbearance the next, then you should not have been giving
probably
this
not.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder too if they're going to start tracking things of that nature from a credit standpoint, or from a lending standpoint. Say in a year, it's you got a loan, and then 30 days later you ask for forbearance, or 15 days later.
Oh yeah, it'll be all on the credit report. You
That's,
see the date of origination, and you can see when the forbearance. I mean, it'll all be there.
So kind of repeating what we said last week is like, if you can make your payments, that's the best option. I mean, just do what it takes to make it happen, and
Right.
I mean, it's good that those other things are there, but they're not there without consequences. I mean,
yeah.
They it sounds like they got an immediate a fix, but there's ripple effects.
For sure.
Well,
Yeah.
and unemployment hit 16.5 million. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who genuinely need this.
Right.
Right.
And that's
a lot.
that's one of the main differences between now and 2008. In 2008, you had to prove hardship. You had to prove your job loss.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you don't. But that does not mean it's a free pass that you can stop making your payments for 6 to 12 months just because you can. The repercussions are going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's not a risk you need to take right now.
Well, and if they can buy somebody that's in trouble, if they buy a little bit of a time, maybe, there's some time for people to kind of figure out what, when that shows up on your credit and how that's going to be handled and what kind of impact it's going to be and stuff like that. But still, it's not
right. Well,
the card's not up on that one,
Yeah. Well, and for those who truly need it, reach out to your lender, find out your options. And the repercussions from that are, okay, so maybe you can't refinance in a few years or something, but you got to keep your home. That's what it's there for. It's not for, somebody's like, I'm going to go buy a boat with this 12 months of savings from my, because you still will have to pay this back one way or another. It's not free. Yay, welcome back, Anne.
The power's on. Oh, right on.
So that's one of the biggest things we're kind of following and trying. The overlays are changing day to day. I think Ginnie Mae, which is the backer of FHA and VA loans, does appear to have a plan for liquidity on the servicing side, and so that might help loosen up some of those guidelines that lenders kind of tightened up. So that's good news. We're waiting to see what will happen with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and the banks that are servicing, or non-banks, I should say, that are servicing, and what will happen with those. If there will be, Calabria says he wants to transfer servicing. How it gets to be done that makes it smooth? We'll have to see. It's a day-to-day thing. First and foremost, pay when you can. Seek help if you actually need it. We are still locked down. We're still, qualifying people. Rate still, I just checked right before we got on. It's been kind of fairly even. We're around 3.625, 3.75 for
Oh.
good credit. Am I breaking up?
A little bit.
That's okay.
So good news is things are still moving, and everybody wants it to happen. The lenders, it's the mortgage industry is a big driver of the economy, and so things are trying to be done to keep this moving, all the way from the feds, all the way down to underwriters and people working overtime. And so we're doing what we can, and good news is it's still happening.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking distracted. I'm trying to jump in front of something. So, you had mentioned earlier in the show, Pam, about, or I think somebody else did, about what kind of liquidity we're seeing and what kind of impact that's going to have for us. in the liquidity in the
Yes.
financing
So
world?
liquidity meaning, these servicers that are not taking payments from homeowners still have to pay those investors that have bought those mortgage-backed securities. And so they're still on the line for paying your principal and interest payment to that investor, as well as paying out your taxes and insurance if those are due as well. And so they're using up the funds that they have, and when they run out, what are they going to do? That's the liquidity issue. And could there be a possible bailout from the feds, for some non-banks, give some assistance to large banks that maybe run out of liquidity? That hasn't been suggested as an option from the feds yet, or from Columbia, but we'll see. We're hoping that
We're hoping
things turn around, and we are hopeful we'll get through it.
They're watching that
it's going to
really
be bumpy.
closely.
They really are.
They can't have the servicing industry fall.
Even Jerome Pfau said that they're watching it. They know how important the mortgage industry is to the economy, and so they're watching it. They're going to make sure that they're going to solve issues if they come up and need to be fixed. So they've got tools in their back pocket, I guess.
So they say.
well, yeah.
They always do.
Yeah, and things keep evolving, but there's a lot of talk about getting, the country back to work and opening up and having like rolling opening of things and stuff like that, which it'll for me, it'll be interesting to see, okay, well, how does that translate to what we're seeing? As far as, okay, we saw it slow down a little bit, and then they had the article about, a lot of people are postponing it, and then what, gangbusters, and then, how that's going to work. But I did see, I did see an ad on television, and it looked like, okay, you see the exterminators that go in and they spray the house. Well, this was for going in and spraying the house to sanitize it from the coronavirus, and I was like, okay, so that's now a thing. But moving ahead, it's like, okay, well, we've got buyers that want to buy and sellers that want to sell, and it's like, okay, what's this new world going to look like that we got to navigate through? And it's like, well, shoot, if you're thinking about it later, man, now's the time to be getting in touch with your, so that we can, kind of put together strategy and kind of figure out, I mean, if all these homes have to be sanitized before you can show them, or there's going to be time limits on who or how many people can be in a house, who knows? We don't know it, but how are we gonna, if you're at home and you got kids aren't in school, right? And you gotta they're doing the homeschooling or online learning. Well, we got a little bit of scheduling and some logistics we need to think about and come up with a plan for. So I think I think that's all it's not like we can't do anything right now. I mean, if you're thinking about buying a house or selling later this year, I mean, there's plenty of things that we can start talking about and kind of getting in motion and starting to figure out. And I'm like, well, what else we got to do besides,
Well,
I mean, it takes a while. Yeah, go ahead.
And I also think it's a good time for people to maybe check their credit if they're considering buying a home. You have time right now to kind of get ahead of this and put yourself in a much better position when things do come back online and lending eases up a little bit. Mm-hmm. You've already done your homework.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think, and as a general rule, you're trying to get in front of something as much as you can is always, the more planning you can do, the more prepared you can be, the smoother everything's going to go. But in this particular, having these contingencies in place, it's like, okay, what are we going to be up against? Where we want to go? What are we going to be thinking of? It's like, I got 3 kids at home, and they're all online schooling right now. let's start looking, what kind of needs are that? Maybe start looking at the market. You can do some online searching and starting to say, oh, you know what? This has a nice little a thing going on in the basement, where it's like, oh, that could become a couple of desks and the new home school room,
Yep.
So.
Well, and there's, this is a really good time because part of the, on the buy side, the hardest part is getting pre-approved, or kind of the most annoying. Sorry, Pam, but it is. It's like get your applications in, get your paperwork in, and then on the list side, we can start seeing what you need to do. We can do a FaceTime call or some sort of walkthrough, and we can make recommendations. And there's a lot we can do to prepare so we can hit the ground running when things do open up.
Right.
Do some virtual staging. FaceTime staging.
Well,
there you go.
And I, for those who don't know what that is, there are companies out there that do virtual staging, and I don't know if I should mention them or not, but
I was referring to that kind. I was referring to just, walk around with your phone and say, here's my living room.
Oh, right. Well,
move that chair.
Yeah.
But 90 degrees to the left, and it should be perfect.
But you're right. There are virtual stages.
There are, and you can see you look at a vacant home. I mean, that's why staging has been so important anyways. You get a reference for the space, and you can kind of see, and it photographs well and stuff. But, if a lot more people are going to be having vacant homes that aren't staged, well, again, there's things that now I don't know if I haven't heard of anybody doing this. It's like, well, listing agent has a vacant house up there, and download a couple pictures, pay the staging company, say, show me what it looks like. Oh yeah, you have, right?
I've actually done it. Yeah, so it's great. It's actually a really great tool.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a huge difference, because when you're looking at an empty living room, and then you have when you look at those pictures side by side, it's a huge difference, and it really helps with that visualization.
Yeah. Well, and just and I always use the analogy like, well, it's from skydiving. When you're falling skydiving, or when you're driving on the road, you've got the lines going by you, right? So you kind of have a sense of how fast you're going. Well, if you're skydiving, there's no lines coming down, so you don't really have any sense of how you're going down. And so this is my cool story. Say everybody's doing the same thing. They're still like, oh, Tony's crazy, he's saying that thing again. but it's true. And if you walk into, and I don't care who you are, you walk into vacant space, you don't have anything that gives you any point of reference as to, will my stuff fit here? What's this really look like? And stuff like that. So, key, whether it's virtually staged, well, virtually staged gives you an idea on virtual touring, but still physically seeing the property, I don't know how we'll ever get around getting in, because the decision's going to be made when the buyer actually whether they get their offer in under a virtual showing and stuff. The decision to move forward with that sale is going to be once they physically walk through the place, right? If they're going to live there. Now, obviously, resort properties, stuff like that, different beast. But yeah. So, thinking ahead to that, is one of those things you can get started on. I mean, okay, yeah. Look, how much stuff do I have here that's got to be?
It's a good time to purge.
Storage.
Get rid of stuff. No,
we've been doing that over here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
There's nowhere to take our stuff to, though. It's like, it's just piling up in the garage.
As near as I can figure, some of my people must be stopping by my house and putting things here in my office, because I got stuff that keeps showing up here. I don't know where it came from.
Multiplying.
Yeah. So, and how about this? What do you guys think on this? The storm of brewing once this all clears. What are you guys thinking that we're going to see?
I think lenders are going to see a whole nother round of inundation that is going to be nuts for a little bit.
Yep.
Because once lending eases up, I mean, right now, FHA, I believe, in the entry level is about 45% of entry level buyers. That's a lot of folks that are sitting, waiting until things ease up to get back into buying a home.
And we have the FHA, VA, and jumbo stalled right now.
And
the self-employed and the non-QM. That's a lot. That's a big.
Yeah, there will be a huge surge again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's going to put pressure again on the housing market. We might see things maybe not in multiple offers right now. Or, if one had, just dealt with one with 9 offers, maybe now they only have 2. Or maybe they only have 1. Who knows?
What a concept that is. What?
Well, look at it right now. I mean, if you're not in multiple offers right now, rates are low. Now is the perfect time to buy.
Yeah.
Well,
Go view those the virtual showings. Go get a contract. I mean, now is the time.
Yeah. I mean, if they do predict that home prices might dip just a slight little bit. Mm-hmm. That and low interest rates, it really is an ideal time if you've been considering to try to buy a new home or upgrade or whatever to jump in. I mean, it may be a little bit different process right now because of the situation we're in, and it may take a little bit longer to get through the loan process, but it's a fabulous time.
Well,
it's a perfect time.
And compared to, so even if the property values take a little bit of a dip, you know how that goes. Okay, price comes down, triggers more activity, blah blah blah. Well, and if we do have a whole bunch of pent up, got what they said, 60% of the people are postponing their purchase. Well, or if they all come back online at the same time, for those who are worried about, the housing market's gonna, collapse and blah blah blah. Well, you'll see scarcity. We don't have enough inventory, and now even if values take a slight dip, the tsunami of everybody getting back in the game is just gonna we'll have competing offers. Same deal. So I think that's a bit of a promising news for
up until
homeowners.
The day we were up until the day we were shut down, we were in multiple offer situations.
Oh, totally.
I mean, we were forced to stop. It's not because the economy stopped us, it's because we have been forced by government order to stop.
Well, yeah,
so,
yeah. But it didn't. It's not like it came to a screeching halt. Everybody found.
It has not.
They found the workarounds and all of that stuff together. But
on the flip side, 60% of your competition's not in the market right now.
Right. Core FHA and VA, but if you fit in the conventional box, it's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, and there still is an opportunity for those government-backed loans. There is. It's just not everybody that was looking for those can qualify maybe right now because of those guidelines being up just a little bit, those overlays.
Right.
But there's still people being qualified for those. It's not like it's gone away, kind of like the jumbo and the non-QM. So,
but they're slightly unaffordable though, because there's discount points involved, and it sort of is a little it's backwards because those are the groups of people that really can't afford discount points. So, it's but yes, you can still get in.
We're kind of running up on our time here, and I haven't seen. Now I was having some Facebook issues here. Where I'm not getting a feed on one of the pages and the comments thing isn't coming in. So if you did comment and we didn't get it, we'll have to deal with it later. But
we'll answer later.
And it gave me a little alert, something about the stream quality was adjusted, or I don't exactly know what that means. But do you guys have anything else you want to wrap up with?
Tony, one of the points you brought up earlier was the 1031 exchange and doing the extensions on that.
Right.
Didn't want to leave that unanswered. So, I don't know if you or Jen want to comment on that one.
Well, I'll just explain it, and I'll let Jen or Pam pick up, or you guys. But for our audience, what the 1031 is, it's a industry term, and it stands for an IRS code, and it allows an investor to sell an investment property and then purchase another like-kind property and defer any capital gains in that process. And so there's an intermediary, or what they call that manages a transaction. There's a time limit where there's real specific rules for that. But the note that I had made was that they had extended the deadline because you have to identify the other properties that you're going to replace with the one you're selling with, and I think they extended that. I don't have the specifics on it, but
July 15th.
July 15th.
You have now until July 15th to identify your property. 1031s, just, we can get you in touch with a really good and accurate source if that's something you're in the middle of or stuck or thinking about.
Good. Well,
I just wanted to share, if anybody's looking for some good news, John Krasinski on Facebook does an episode. I think he's done 3 episodes now that he literally calls Some Good News, and it's like a newscast, but it's about 15 minutes, and it's all done by him, and he just takes whatever everybody sends him of good news, and he shares it with everybody. It's just uplifting, funny, so look it up.
Well, and I got to tell you, those little, the dog posts and the pictures of the baby octopus and the stuff, on the I just dig it. I'm waiting for the mask competitions, It's like, okay, who has the coolest mask? Here's the light thing. And for our audience, and hopefully this will come up here, we'll be there's some little PDFs and stuff of some good tips that we'll post on the Lincoln Livecast page. Stuff to do with your family, how to get the kids outdoors, this kind of stuff. So just a added little bonus to look for on the Facebook site. But I'm with you, Pam. I'm like, everybody's just getting clobbered here, and when you get a little bit of joy, man, spread it around, because I saw one, and we'll probably, I don't know if you guys saw it, with the little dog that was on the what do you call it, the thing that you walk
treadmill.
on. The treadmill, yeah. And I said, how my and he's just like, I'm doing it one at a time. Is that good enough? That's how my workout's going. So that kind of stuff. But at any rate, well, with that, I think we're going to probably wrap this up. All of us are going to continue to watch this stuff, and we'll be back with you next week. Ebb and flows, but it's one of the differences that we're getting to do now is we're looking at this stuff on a daily basis, and seeing the weekly review and what happened last weekend, and so all of that kind of fits into the big picture. But hope you join us next week, and I guess we can all say, I'll say bye for now, and everybody else say bye for now. So.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a great week, everyone.
All right. Thanks again.